Hi guys, I have a cold today, so I apologize if I sound stuffy. So today's video, I'm actually going to stick a work video in between the two high school videos, because it made sense chronologically, I felt. So technically my first job was a paper route, and I was like 12, but there's not really much to discuss there, so I'm starting with 2005. So as the summer was approaching, I was 16 that year, which is the age when you can start working in my province. And my mom asked me if I wanted to work that summer, and we started trying to think of ideas. And she suggested, and I'm not going to name any employers by name in my videos, she suggested a camp for children with autism because she knew that sort of disabilities and special needs is a special interest of mine. She says I'm my own special interest. So she suggested this camp. I believe I didn't feel ready to work, so I decided to try volunteering. I don't actually remember, but I think that's what it was. So I volunteered there for 2 summers, 2005, 2006. I think 2006 I waited too long to apply. I think that was what happened. So I ended up volunteering again. And the 2 summers were pretty much carbon copies of each other. I went in, I think it was like 7 hours a day, 4 days a week. There was no commitment. I just chose to because I was liking going there and getting out of the house. And um yeah, it was pretty uneventful. I was pretty much a gopher, go for this, go for that. So that's what I expected. I was doing a lot of, setup, cleanup. I did that kind of stuff. I didn't get to interact with the campers too much beyond like, hi, how are you? But it was a good thing I felt to have on a resume because I was getting to witness lots of different challenges of autism. All the kids there are quite severe autism. So I felt it was educational. The only problem I ever remember having, and this is mostly in my own head, at the time the camp was quite small. There was just me and one other volunteer. And oh, sorry, that's why it was only the reason it's only 4 days a week is because they went on field trips on Wednesdays, and the camp was too small to afford to pay for these extra bodies, the volunteers. So that's why it was 4 days a week. So anyway, the other volunteer, she was like, I was 16, she was 13, but she was like one of those girls who's like 13 going on 30. She was very mature, and I just felt like everyone liked her more than me. I felt like they gave her more responsibilities than me. I think looking back on it, that was all in my head, but I didn't. I remember getting frustrated with that, but that was about it. So when summer 2007 was rolling around, I decided to apply at this camp as a counselor in training. I knew I wasn't ready to be a full-blown counselor, and it could have been a perfectly good summer if I just shut up and done my job. But I complained a lot, and I think part of that, um, well, I think it was twofold why I was unhappy. I expected a lot more responsibility as a counselor in training, like I expected to be able to do more with the campers. Looking back, I understand why I wasn't allowed. Some of these campers were violent, some weren't toilet trained, some had seizures. So they needed experienced people, like university students with a lot of experience and education. So I understand that now, but at the time, I approached it with this sort of, even though chronologically I was 18, I think I was emotionally just entering that teenage, I know everything, I can do everything, and everyone else is wrong and stupid. That teenage arrogance. Um, so I think that's one reason why. And the other reason was my brother was a counselor in training at a town camp with regular kids, and he did have a lot more responsibilities. I think I was expecting it like that. So it was a combination of expectations and arrogance. But it could have been a perfectly good summer. But I complained my way through it. And in retrospect, they really didn't do anything wrong. It was all me. I did learn a couple things that summer about what challenges I might have with work in the future. So one of them was I discovered how hard it is for me to get up in the morning, which I think is a medication thing. Medication will be discussed down the road. So previous to that, anytime I had work or school or what have you, there were always other people around. If I didn't get up when my alarm went off, some random family member would be like yelling in my bedroom, get out of bed. I was being held accountable, basically. What happened that summer was for 2 weeks, my mom and stepdad went away. They had to go up north to help take care of my stepdad's father. to give his sister a break. And one of the 2 weeks they went away coincided with my last week of camp. Um, and I thought I'd be fine waking up and getting there on my own because it actually had moved closer to me. The camp was held in a school, and the teachers wanted the classrooms back to set up the last week of summer. So we got moved to some rundown adult education center, like a 70-year-old building, but it was much closer to my house, so I thought I'd have no problem getting there. I was late every single day. 1 or 2 days I had to take a taxi because I would have been stupidly late if I waited for buses. So that was I learned that. Sorry. So that was my wake up to getting up for work. How that would be a challenge for me. I'm a little bit out of it and tired, so I apologize if I'm not quite making sense. But yeah, so to this day, getting up in the morning because I never feel refreshed. This is a massive challenge. And I'm gonna discuss that more down the road. I would like to get off some of my medication. Um, the other thing I learned about myself, was I didn't disclose that I had Asperger's. I thought I was kind of oblivious at the time to how people perceived me. So I just thought I could hide it, or not. I don't even hide is even the right word. I just didn't think it mattered outside of a school environment. I didn't think anyone would notice. So what ended up happening, there were no major problems, but there were examples of communication issues, right? So one example would be we'd taken the kids to a water park, and a counselor came up to me and said, "Can you watch those bags under that tree?" They were taking campers to a bathroom to put their bathing suits on. So I'm staying with the bags, and eventually another counselor comes up to me and says, "Can you help me with a diaper change?" And at this point, there were lots of campers and counselors sitting under the tree, so the bags were far from unattended. So I said, sure. I went to help with the diaper change. And then the original counselor says, "Why aren't you watching the bags?" And I'm like, "Oh, it's fine. So and so sitting over there." "Well, did you tell them?" And I was like, "No, but they can see the bags." And she's like, "Emily, the bags have medication in them. They can never be unattended. You also have to tell people that the bags are there." Apparently, this was brought up in training or something. And I will put some blame on this counselor for just assuming that I would know stuff somehow. But I do feel, I don't know this, but I do feel that if I had disclosed, that maybe it would have been worded to me differently. Maybe, she would have made sure more that, I had all the information. Um, so it was never a major problem. I just like to use that as an example of my communication difficulties that can occur. So I guess that's it for about 2007. So when summer 2008 was rolling around, because I still had this arrogance. And I still, in my mind, the autism camp had somehow done something wrong to me. I was like, I'm gonna go work somewhere else. I thought I'm gonna work for the town I live in at town-run camps as a one-to-one counselor with special needs kids. So I applied, and I even before I got the job, I even went and did CPR level B, so it would be on my resume because that's how sure I was gonna get the job. I didn't get the job. I got hired by the neighboring town. And they wanted CPR level C, so you would think I would learn after that not to assume hiring, but not quite. I didn't quite get there. um, so I got hired by the neighboring town, and the way it worked was I was hired as, they called it, an integration counselor. So basically, they had a core group of these counselors that they would send around the town as needed, to different camps to be one-on-one with campers there. So I could go all over the town throughout the summer. I had some amazing weeks and I had some horrible weeks. The amazing weeks, um, what tended to happen was my camper would be the only one with special needs or one of a few in the camp. So people would defer to me instead of telling me what to do. That the autism camp, they all had expertise. So I remember I liked that a lot. When the weeks were good and the other staff trusted me, it was great. When it was bad, it was really bad. And the bad weeks all took place in one particular area of town that I now know that anyone in education and childcare tries to avoid. Because this area is not just that they're spoiled rich kids, but there's this weird culture. Like these kids are perfect and can do nothing wrong. Like teachers get blamed if the kids fail tests, that kind of environment. So anytime I went out in that area, it was a bad week. Um, my supervisor had to rescue me because there was a supervisor who was in charge of the integration counselor, as well as supervisors at each camp. And I had a camp supervisor tell me to my face that she didn't like me because she was just as immature and spoiled as the campers. So fortunately, my supervisor did rescue me and put me in a different camp. But there was one incident that was honestly traumatic. They did not tell me that when there's no special needs kids, they just throw you in a regular camp. So they threw me in a basketball camp in this weird, bad area of town. I can't do basketball anyway, so this was a disaster. The kids were out of control. The counselors didn't care, and for some reason, I was being picked on. The supervisor of the community center that the camp was in had a daughter in that camp, and apparently she would keep a close eye on the camp. And she pulled me into her office one time and accused me of apparently I was yelling at the kids. She said I was quote scaring the crap out of them. And she also said that I never participated and played basketball with the kids. And I just remember bursting into tears because I was like, I didn't ask for this. I don't know how to do this. I also don't know where these accusations were coming from. Fortunately, my supervisor rescued me again. This was a Thursday, so the week was almost over. So the Friday, she had me, one of the integration staff called in sick, so she had me go cover for that person for the Friday. But that week was bad. That week was traumatic. I was actually afraid to work with school age kids for years after that because I didn't know they were not all like that. And that supervisor, even though I'd mentioned her rescuing me a couple times, I had a love hate relationship with her. Like, I actually was still arrogant enough to not think I had to disclose. And she actually, like, she was very, I don't know what the word I'm looking for is here, rude. Um, she called me out about some weird thing I supposedly said to a parent in front of a bunch of other staff once, and that's at the during training week. So that's when I disclosed to her, and I don't know. She just was very blunt. I didn't like her. I was kind of scared of her. Um, the love part comes in because she rescued me a couple times. The hate part comes in because my end of summer evaluation. Some of these camp supervisors said some ridiculous things, and I lost all these points on my evaluation, and she accused me of things, and I was upset for months. It felt very unfair, and wasn't mature enough to handle that situation. So when summer 2009 was rolling around, I was like, I'm gonna go back to the autism camp as a counselor in training. I didn't apply anywhere else because I thought for sure they were gonna hire me. They didn't hire me. I got an email back saying that I had issues with teamwork. And I remember spazzing and saying, I'm on the spectrum, you should be supporting me, blah, blah, blah. And they were like, well, you never told us. And they were right, but for some reason I was insisting they were wrong. But they were right. I did never tell them. So they wouldn't take me back. Although they said I was welcome to volunteer. So what I ended up doing, and this seemed like a good idea in retrospect, I went crawling back to the neighboring town to see if she would hire me because I don't know why. I don't know why I did that. But she told me that she'd done all her hiring for the year, but she'd be willing to hire me as what's called a leisure buddy volunteer. So this was for campers that supposedly, in theory, on paper, for campers with mild special needs, so no feeding, toileting behavior, who might need a little bit of assistance to participate in the camp. So I agreed to do that, and once again, I had some amazing weeks. Don't ask me why I agreed. I had some amazing weeks doing this volunteer thing, and then I had some really weird weeks. The middle of the summer, like, it started out great. The middle of the summer, I actually, because you didn't have to commit to the whole summer. So while my parents were away, I was going to take off those 2 weeks from the neighboring town and volunteer at the autism camp because it was much closer to home. I think I lasted 2 or 3 days at the autism camp because the camp had changed a lot. It was much bigger. They had much more of a volunteer program. So that was very jarring for me. And I think that anxiety manifested as arrogance, as I'm too good for this. I've been a counselor. Why do I have to sweep the floor? which is not logical because I was volunteering. No one told me to do this. But that's not the first time that anxiety manifested in a weird way. I think that's what that was. So I ended up doing nothing for most of those 2 weeks. Um, and then I went back to the neighboring town as a leisure buddy. And I was put with I was told that the camper had very high needs. And they were going to, even though he had a counselor, they said they could use a second set of hands. I was so annoyed because I'd had that camper alone for 2 weeks before, the previous summer. So I don't understand why she thought I could have him alone and not someone else. And in the last 2 weeks of the summer, this is where I really learned to just shut my mouth and do what I'm told. Because she put me with a girl. She said, "Oh, this girl has ADHD," and I went in for the day, and the girl did not need me. When the mother picked me up, she said I didn't ask for a leisure buddy this summer, so I should have just done nothing for 2 weeks. Instead, I contacted the supervisor and told her, and she goes, "Okay, I'm going to move you somewhere else." She said this camper has severe ADHD. He has a leisure buddy with him. It would be nice to have a second person with him. Whatever was going on with this camper was far worse than just ADHD, and the parents obviously knew it, didn't want to pay for an integration counselor, and lied. He was climbing, I think he was on the spectrum, among other things. I could not control him. He would eat stuff off the floor. He was climbing off windows. He would put random items in the community center. He'd go over to the library and put random items in their Dropbox, and the library staff would yell at us. And the first week I survived because I had a second person with me. The second week he was gone because he'd fulfilled his hours. He was doing the hours for school. So he was gone, and I quit halfway through the week because I couldn't handle his kid. And when I tried to contact the supervisor, she'd gone on vacation. So I was like, I'm not doing this. I'm not dealing with this camper. I'm not getting paid for this. I'm not doing this. So obviously, I never went back to that neighboring town again for any sort of employment or what have you. So summer 2011, I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna screw around. That was my last summer. Sorry, I missed summer 2010. I didn't work summer 2010. I planned to. I applied to like 6 different camps, and then I ended up doing school coursework, college courses instead. When I discuss college, I'll expand on that. So summer 2011, I thought I'm just gonna apply for a job that I'm probably gonna get, and I know I can do. The autism camp had not done anything wrong to me, so I thought I'm just gonna go back there as a counselor in training. I quit after a week because I learned a lesson here. They kept telling me the contract wasn't ready. The contract wasn't ready. At the end of the first week, they brought me my contract. They were gonna pay me $250, so that would have been 2 bus passes and $50 left over, and it just wasn't worth it. We're running my butt off all day, never sitting down, never getting a break. It wasn't worth it. I'd always been paid minimum in the past. I assumed it was going to be minimum. I don't know how they got away with that, but I quit. And this video's gone extremely long, which unfortunately my work videos will. So I'm gonna end it there. And my next video will be the second half of high school. So thank you.